Okay, guys, here we go. This picture that you're looking at up there, actually, you know what? Hey, team, Dawn, can somebody just push that podium back out of the way so that people can see the screen? Thank you. Okay, thank you. All right. This is my son Robbie when he was 2 years old. Isn't he beautiful? He was such a beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy. This picture was taken when he was watching The Little Mermaid for the first time. Little did I know that we would probably watch that movie 10,000 more times in his lifetime. This was just the beginning, and we know that movie and all the classic Disney movies we know word for word. Okay, let me see. Where's my? I think I can do this since I'm sitting here. I don't need my clicker. Okay. So Robbie was born in 1989. Back then, nobody had autism. It was kind of unheard of. And over the years, I watched it go from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 1,000, 1 in 500, 1 in 200, 1 in 100, 1 in 50, up to 1 in 32 that it is now, okay? And I always felt myself, this is just my story that I'm giving you guys today, okay? I always felt that I had just some type of destiny or purpose, some kind of calling on my life that I was supposed to do. And I would always ask God, what is my calling? What am I supposed to do? And there's sayings that they say, your test is your testimony, your mess is your message, okay? And so at the time, nobody had autism, but then as I'm watching these numbers grow and grow, I'm like more and more and more and more people were having autistic kids. And I was like, God, what did you get me into? Like, what did you get me into? I had no idea this was going to be a thing, you know? And I noticed that when I first went to the school that Robbie went to, that most of the parents were either really angry or they were depressed. And they were looking for somebody to blame. They were blaming the doctors, they were blaming themselves, okay? And back then the culture was to cure autism. I mean, you know, for those of you that, right, Robbie would be 34, okay? I'm older than I look. So, you know, back then you tried every kind of crazy therapy that you could, vitamins and, you know, oxygen tanks and, you know, all kinds of things to try to cure the autism because it was considered a really horrible, horrible thing, you know. So, okay. This, when I got married and I was having babies, this is what I pictured my life to be. This is what I had in mind. The perfect family, right? The perfect husband, the perfect children, the perfect house, right? This is what it really turned out to be. Uh-oh, wait, that's not supposed to be there. And it felt more like that. So I want you to take out your notebooks and your pencil. And the first thing I want you to write down is, what were your fairy tale dreams? When you first were getting married or first having children, or even when you were just, you know, like a teenage girl becoming a grown-up and you thought about what you wanted to be, where you thought your life was going to go, right? I can tell you for me, I thought I was going to be a ballerina, I was going to be on Broadway, I was going to be a movie star. I had all these things in my head that I was going to be. So write them all down, okay? Okay. Right? What were your dreams? What were your dreams? Okay? Okay. So this is what became my reality. This is Robbie, now a little bit older. Here he is at DLC. This is on Sibling Day. And that's my twin daughters were there for Sibling Day. And I knew that day, that was a destiny day for Patty. Because Patty on the left, both of my girls have a very different personality than me. I'm very impatient, I want everything done yesterday, right? And they're just so calm, so easygoing. I could take them anywhere, very patient. And I told them that day, I said, you guys should think about going into something with autism. You should be a special ed teacher or an OT or a PT or speech, something. And Patty on the left became a special ed teacher. She did. Denise, no. And David, who you met today, he thought he was all into sports, and he went to school for sports marketing, and everything shifted during COVID. He lost a job during COVID, and Patty said, David, why don't you go work at the DLC for a while until you figure it out? They could use you. And he found his calling when he was there. So my reality here was, here's what's going on in my life. Robbie doesn't sleep. He either stays up till midnight, or if he falls asleep early, he's up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He only ate pretzels for an entire year. He was always constipated. I don't even want to get into the details of that, how bad that was with the blood and the stool and all of that, right? He doesn't speak at all. All he did was watch Disney movies. He wasn't being potty trained. I just put him into to a school for special ed kids. I'm dealing with the fact that, you know, we used to dress him in little Yankees outfits and thought he's going to be the next Derek Jeter, right? And then you have to have this complete mind shift. That's not who my son is, okay? And I was actually going through mourning at that time. But listen, I'm a very positive person, so I went through the mourning. It lasted a week for me, and I'm like, okay, that's it. Let's get her done. What do we need to do, right? So at that time, I got one of those infamous Christmas letters from one of my friends. Yeah, some people know what I'm talking about. The Christmas letter. Well, we're building our dream house right now, and our boys are off doing this and doing that, and my poor wife is so exhausted from building her dream house that I decided to take her away to Bermuda on a cruise. I'm like, good for you. I'm so happy for you. And then I get a phone call from another friend that was we were pregnant at the same time. She had twin boys a week after Robbie was born, and I'm watching her kids develop, and I'm watching mine not develop, right? And she calls me up because she was so excited to tell me that her husband, was at a fundraiser, and he won a new Mercedes. Good for you, I'm so happy for you. You know what's going on in my life? Robbie just learned how to smear poop all over the walls. Yeah, that's my life. So, also at the time, we were living in a two-family house, an apartment with my mother-in-law. Yeah, my Italian mother-in-law. So, does anybody ever watch Everybody Loves Raymond?
Yes.
I'm Deborah, and we literally call my mother-in-law Marie. That's not her name, but she's so much like her, we call her Marie, and she laughs because she knows, because it's the truth. So at this time now, I decided I was praying and praying that we could have a house that we could move out, we could be on, and it's just not happening. It wasn't happening. So I decided at Christmas time, I'm not putting up a tree. I was throwing a little temper tantrum because I was mad at God. I'm not putting up a tree until I can put it up in my own house. So that was me. I was, sour lemons. The sour lemons. I was being a baby, and I was crying over the sour lemons. So the next thing you're going to write down is, are you being a sourpuss? And what are you angry about? Write it down. Okay, so time is going on. Robbie's getting older. Now he's 12, 13. And I like to say that he's a minimalist because he doesn't like anything in his room. And he didn't believe that there should be cushions on my couch. So every day he'd come in and throw the cushions on the floor, right? And this is now Robbie as he's older. Look at his bed, okay? He used to jump on the bed. He destroyed so many beds from jumping on them. We went through TVs, VCRs. He used to slam all the doors until all my doors were all falling off. In the kitchen, he used to slam the drawers that all the front drawers of my kitchen cabinets would fall off. There's a hole in the wall there, okay? So, Doreen, my dear, you understand property destruction very well, right? Okay. So, and guess what field I'm in? Interior design. So I go to work for people that live in beautiful $1 million homes in Chatham and Summit and Westfield, right? And I come home to this, right? I had to learn material things are just not that important, I just had to I had to have a mind shift, okay? He broke all my dishes. One morning I woke up to the sound of crashing and I came downstairs and he had taken all of my dishes and threw them down to the bottom of the stairs in the basement and broke every single dish. So after that, we used plastic dishes. And then he starts to get violent, okay? And he liked to pull hair. And he would go after my husband, and he would pull my husband to the floor, and he wouldn't stop until he heard his shirt rip. And he's in a state of fight or flight. Now, the thing you have to understand for me, when I was growing up, I grew up in a really dysfunctional home. My father was not a nice man, and we used to get punished every day, whether we did something wrong or not, and one of his favorite ways of punishing was pulling hair, okay? And it looked a lot like that, and he used to do that. And then Robbie started pulling the hair. And that was the one thing for me that was the trigger. That was the thing that would make me cry. I could handle anything else, you know, but that was the one thing that would really, really hit me. So the thing that I feel can be the most difficult when your kids, you know, it starts in puberty, right? They're full of adrenaline, they get violent or whatever. If you have a history, though, of some type of abuse in your past, that's really going to be a trigger for you, okay? And the hard part is I didn't want to hate my son, right? I didn't want to always be angry at him. Because I see the posts on Facebook, I see what people post, okay? And I totally get that. And I didn't want to, and see, growing up, I was always afraid, and I was always in this state of fight or flight. So, what I did is I separated Robbie from the autism. When there's like the evil autism, the mean side, and then there's the sweet boy, right? So when the mean one would come on, right, and then he'd leave, and then what would happen is after this episode, Robbie would cry. And it was almost like he didn't mean to do it, you know? And then to see him cry would kill me, that would break my heart, right? So then he'd go back to my sweet boy again. So I separated it, so I'm like, no, that's that, it's almost like this demon that would come on him, this mean thing, and then it would go away, and then I'd have my Robbie back. So I'm just trying to help you guys through stuff that I went through, and what I've learned is to separate that, right? And you know, with the interior design, the property destruction, I just tell you a real quick story. Doreen over here, she was one of my clients. She hired me to come and choose her paint colors at her house, and she's showing me around, and then she says, you know, I don't want to bring you in this one room though. I was like, why? She says, well, my son, you know, he's a teenager. I'm like, okay, what? So his clothes are all over the floor, it smells like stinky feet, you know, like what? You know, she's like, well, no, he's autistic, and he's, you know, he kind of destroys his room. I'm like, oh, I have one of those. And we immediately became friends. So, right? So I want to know, right? Because you're like, nobody understands. None of my friends, nobody knows what it's like. I'm like, oh no, I know, trust me. And she was shocked, right? So what I want to know, my next question for you is, do you have a trigger? Is there something that happens to you that really will really trigger a very negative emotion in you? Write that down. Maybe not everybody does, but if you do, write it down. And this was the question I'm asking. Where's my fairy tale? Where's my fairy tale life? This is not what I planned. And I think a lot of women do this. I call it the Cinderella syndrome. They wanted their handsome prince and their castle and their perfect life. And then when things go wrong and the marriage doesn't work out, things are with the kids are not what you had planned. You know, you lose your fairy tale, what you dreamed of when you were a girl. So did you guys have a fairy tale dream? If you did, write it down. Okay. So this is how my mind works. Now, I'm going to talk about God. I know some of you, we have different religions in the room. Some of you probably don't even believe in God or whatever, but this is me, this is my life, this is my story, okay? So I always believe that, like I said in the beginning, that I have a destiny. right? And so I was asking myself, what did God have in mind for my life? Because obviously it's not going the way I planned. What's going on here? What is he trying to do in my life? These are two verses that say, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. And the other one says, for I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. So I started asking, okay, God, how do you really operate? What are you really like? Okay? God's not a fairy tale. And I started looking at his creation, okay? The top one is a caterpillar in a cocoon. When I was a kid, I don't even remember how we did this. I don't know if this was something you ordered, whatever, but I remember this caterpillar that was on a branch and he formed a cocoon. And when they start becoming a butterfly, they struggle so much inside of that thing that it's actually really, really hard to watch. And you just want to help them. Do you know what happens if you help a caterpillar get out of the cocoon? You kill it. It dies. Right. And then the other one I think is kind of funny. It's like it's the mother bird trying to teach the bird how to fly. It's kicking it out of the nest. Yeah, as moms, we're like, oh, I would never do that, and we want to run and we want to help, right? And we want to take away the pain, and we don't want our kids to go through any pain, and we don't want them to struggle, and we want to do it all for them, and we want to help them, right? But honestly, that doesn't help them become stronger. It doesn't help them become independent. Right, Patty?
That's right.
What is your purpose? Here's your clue. That's you guys, you know what your destiny is? You're a warrior mom. You are. And you're gonna go through some tough stuff, and it's gonna make you stronger. That's why I love that song. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Yes. Okay? Toughen up, Buttercup. That's what I wrote down. I wanted to be taken care of in my life, right? I wanted an easy life. I wanted a husband that was going to take care of me, that I was going to have plenty of money in the bank and no worries and no problems. Didn't go that way. And that's not what we're created to be, okay? And I always imagine this, me talking to God and saying, this isn't fair. I didn't do anything to deserve this. And I imagine God up there singing, I beg your pardon. I didn't never promise you a rose garden. No, it doesn't go that way. Again, with the creation, it's on this left. It says, a tiny seed knew that in order to grow, it needed to be dropped in the earth, covered in darkness, and struggle to reach the light. Again, more of just creation. Everything goes through a struggle before it becomes something beautiful. And the one on the right, I like that one too. I never met a strong person with an easy past. Don't become strong by going through nothing, by not having some difficulty. It's just how I do things when I teach people and stuff, I didn't do it with you guys today. But usually I'm like, let them make mistakes, you'll figure it out. But we were on too much of a time restraint that when you guys were having trouble doing your bows, I'm like, here, let me just do it for you. Right? Yes. Let me just do it for you. This is another one. This is how God sees you. We see ourselves as these little kittens that want to be taken care of, right? But he's like, nope, I created you to be a lioness.
Can you post that one? That's cute.
Yes, I have. Yes, I can do that. Okay. This is another one of my clients. This is Meg. She was born with only one finger. There's a word for the disorder that she has, but she only has like one finger on each hand. And her feet are the same way. And she's beautiful, right? So she told me when I worked for her parents refused to do anything for her. And when I was at her house, she was I picked her paint colors, the painter was there, and now she wanted to hang this big clock back up on the wall. And she was struggling with it. And my first reaction was I wanted to run over and I wanted to help her. And I wanted to do it. And then I said, no, wait a minute. Her parents didn't do it for her. They made her figure it out. They made her do it herself. I'm not going to help her either. And she did it. She did fine. Even when she had to sign my check, I'm like, how is she going to do this? She did it. She signed her check. She's a very successful attorney in New York City. Right? Now, imagine if her parents didn't make her struggle and become stronger. Right? Where would she be? I don't know. But she's very successful, and she has a really high-powered, very stressful job, commuting into the city every day. So I'm going to use a bunch of F words tonight. This one is fortitude, okay? Strength. So if you want to take, I'm used to taking notes, right? You want to take notes. Fortitude is the first F word. You're going to go through battles, okay? When you're raising your kids, you will learn how to fight, you will advocate, you will defend, you will educate, and you will learn how to love unconditionally. Now, one of the ways that you can learn how to be stronger is this. This is a verse. I laugh every time I see it. You shall not plow with an ox and a donkey yoked together. What that means is, a donkey, in another translation of the Bible, is called a jackass. Okay? So a jackass is what? He's stubborn, right? He does what he wants to do. He doesn't listen. He doesn't do what he's told. As much as you try to tell them what to do, they don't want to do things their own way. If an ox is yoked up with a jackass, the jackass is not going to do any of the work. Who's going to do all the work? The ox. How many of us are yoked up to a jackass? Who's going to admit it? Who's going to admit it? Okay? All right. And how many of you have, you're done with your jackass and he's now gone? Right? Okay, listen, I can tell you, I know some people's stories in the room, and I can tell you, some of you were yoked up to a jackass, okay? But what happens with the ox? The ox is doing all the work, but who's got the strong shoulders? Who's the stronger one, right? The ox. That's just a verse that God just showed me, you know. And this is what you will become, a badass. I want you to turn to the person next to you and say, you are a badass. All right, I'll tell you another story. So I was at a dinner party one time with a woman that was a friend of mine at the time, and she was like a Martha Stewart, and she was like an excellent cook, and she puts a lot of effort into her cooking and her presentation, and the table is set perfectly and beautifully, and we're all sitting there eating, and I guess her husband had hung a picture on the dining room wall, and he didn't do a good job, and she had the buffet there with the food, and the picture fell and cracked her dish. Okay? She was so upset she couldn't even talk. She had to walk out of the other room, and I'm going, really? One broken dish, and that does it for you? Really? You know, that's when I realized, you know what? Okay, I'm a badass. All right. Because little things like that just aren't going to set me off. They're just not. Because I've been through too much now, and something stupid like a broken dish, I'm like, all right, so what? Get a plastic one. Okay. This is the one I want to post for all of you guys. This is that app on Facebook, right, that I did. That's me. It takes your face and puts you on and then makes you into that warrior. So I'm going to post this on there, and I want you guys to do it. I want you to get your face on that app, okay? And we'll all share it with each other, okay? And then the next thing that you want to do is you want to find your tribe. And you want to surround yourself with other people that are going through the same thing as you, with other badass women. And here you all are in the room. Woo-hoo! Okay, this is, so when Robbie, long story short, I put him in a group home. I didn't want to put him in a group home. I was trying to save his life, honestly, because he had too much stress at home and he was having seizures. And so I put him in the group home. But when I did, they were not ready for him, okay? And I started filming and just throwing it up on my YouTube channel because I was just tired of repeating the stories all the time. And this was just an easy way to just show people. And I ended up getting all these thousands of followers. But Robbie loved to ride in the car. And he's doing his happy fingers right now in the back because we're playing music and he's doing his happy fingers. But when we went into the group home, here's what happened. They were not used to people with autism. They were used to older people that moved in slow motion, kind of walking in a wheelchair, and the women that worked there were retired, and they were just cook dinner on the stove, read the paper, you know, and then put them to bed. Now here comes Robbie. Zoom, 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 running back and forth, right? And now he's frustrated. They don't understand him, so he pick up a chair, he'd throw it across the kitchen. They were afraid. They call the police. I show up. They're taking my son out of the place in handcuffs. Okay, so you know, it was just one thing after the other. So I videotape. Well, one day I get a phone call from the directors of the group home. They're like, Mrs. Gellermini, we've become aware that you are videotaping and putting on YouTube. I'm like, oh crap. They said, look, we understand what you're trying to do, because I was trying to say, look, we need better paid staff, more qualified, yada, yada. The state needs to put more money into this, blah, blah. They said, we understand what you're trying to do, but the staff doesn't want to be on video, number one, and number two, don't show his medications because of HIPAA laws. I'm like, that's fine. She says, as a matter of fact, we're going to have a meeting on Wednesday. Do you want to come? Sure. I come. I show up to this meeting, and the room is full of all the employees of this place. They wouldn't even look at me. They were so mad at me, they hated me, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm sitting there going, they're going to kick us out. They are going to kick Robbie out, for sure. And I sit down, and the woman starts the meeting, and she says, listen, we know that you all are aware that Mrs. Gellermini has been videotaping, and they're all just looking at the floor, like they wouldn't even look at me. And I'm like, oh my God, never felt so hated in one room. And she says, and so I'm here to tell you that we screwed up. We thought that Robbie would just move right in and just do things the way we've always done it, and we realized we're wrong, and we need to change the way we do things. And not only that, she said everybody else that comes to live in a group home from this point on will be just like Robbie. They're going to be young, they're going to have autism, so we're going to have to train you all how to work with people with autism. And if you don't like it, you can find other employment. Whoa! So guess what happened? They all quit. They all quit, and they had to get new people, and they had to get, and they built a different house for Robbie. They moved him in, they brought in staff that had worked with other kids, whatever. We got it, everything all settled. And then he went to heaven. Okay. So, okay. We're gonna write down the 5 F's. Okay, more F words. Here's the 5 F's to be a successful warrior mom. Here's the first one. Who says this glass is half empty? Oh, it's down. Who thinks it's half full? You've got to see the glass half full. Okay, so the first F word is full. Right? In other words, you have to make lemonade out of lemons. Right? You've got to change your thinking. You've got to change your stinking thinking. Okay, and you can't sit around thinking about everything that's not right, that I didn't get, not my way, whatever. Okay? The Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So what's coming out of your heart? If there's a lot of negativity coming out of your mouth, then there must be a lot of negativity going on in your mind. Okay? It says, life and death are in the power of your tongue. And it talks a lot about speaking a blessing or speaking a curse. Okay? Who was here last year? And who heard Houston? Right? Houston can hear his mother's thoughts. Can you imagine your son hearing your thoughts, or your daughter hearing what you're thinking? Right? But you don't know. She didn't know. She didn't know until he was 20 years old. And all of a sudden she's like, oh my God, what have I been thinking and saying in front of my child? Right? Okay? And what she also what she talks about is it's energy. It's energy that you're giving off, okay? And this is why I always said Robbie, he was completely nonverbal, but he always had a sixth sense that he used to pick up on people. And there was a staff member that he used to get in such a bad mood whenever she was there, and I knew right away, he's picking up on something on her. She's not a good person. And he knows it, and he probably heard her thoughts, or when I'm there, she's probably just talking. She's probably just complaining about him all the time, right in front of him, just thinking that he doesn't know what she's saying. Okay, and it gives off bad energy. Okay, so I want to tell you about negative words. This is not Bible. This is science. A study proved that negative words release stress and anxiety-inducing hormones. Increased level of anxiety is associated with a higher rates of negative self-talk. This suggests that negative self-talk plays a role in the generation or maintenance of anxiety. I can't even tell you how, I feel like I hear that word anxiety every single day, right? It starts with the negative thoughts and the negative self-talk, okay? Negative words, whether spoken, heard, or thought, not only causes situational stress, but also contributes to long-term anxiety. Negative words trigger increased activity in the amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain. Okay, get out your notebook, and you're going to write down what are some of your negative thoughts. Negative thoughts. What are your negative thoughts? Oh my gosh, I'm missing like the last 2 pages of my notes. All right, we're just going to have to roll with it. Okay. These are your positive thoughts. Okay? So you want to switch your thinking and start replacing your negative thoughts with positive thoughts. I cannot believe I don't have the last pages of my notes. Okay. So 6 years ago, my baby moved to heaven, okay? And I am the type of person, because I told you of the trauma, all right, of growing up, my trauma response is that I don't like to deal with negativity, and I have to stay busy. Can you tell? So I also knew that if you don't deal with mourning, that eventually it's going to build up inside you, and eventually you're going to blow, and you're going to either go into, you can have deep mental breakdowns later on down the line. So I had to force myself to mourn. I had to force myself to stop and stay home and wear my robe and lay around in my bed and just allow myself to mourn. And that went, it was November, December, January, I think about 3 months, and I didn't work and I stayed home. But then one day, I hit a fork in the road. I went to church, I was in the car alone on my way home, and I can't even tell you, but something just rose up inside me, and I knew that I had reached this fork. And I had to make a decision that night that if I continued in this morning and went off to the right, I was going to go off into a deep depression that I was not going to get out of. How many of you know people that lost somebody 20 years ago and they're still walking around, right? Right? Like the Italians still walking around in their black mourning clothes, right? And they still haven't gotten over it, okay? I could have gone that way, or I could have decided, nope, I'm going this way. And I heard this verse come up inside me. It said, the joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. And I started screaming it in my car, and I decided that verse got me through it, and I knew that pulled me out of the depression and brought me off to the left, okay? So what I was doing was I was replacing the negative words with positive words, okay? So what is so what I want to know is if any of you, if there's something going on in you where you need to stop, and what's your fork, right? There may be some of you that is like, enough is enough now. I'm done. Like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this depression. I'm tired of this anger. I'm tired of whatever this is that I've been hanging on to for a long time. I'm going to make a decision now. I'm going to the left in that fork. I'm not going down there to the right. I'm going to the left. So that would be something you write down now. What's your fork? Okay, the next F word is forgiveness. Forgiveness is very, very important. Forgiveness does not mean what the person did was okay. Okay? What forgiveness does, there's a saying that says, holding on to unforgiveness is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Okay? You don't want to do that. What forgiveness does is it breaks that connection to that person and it sets you free. Okay? So, I had to do this with my father that I told you I didn't have a good relationship with, okay? this was 25 years ago. I went to church and my pastor was doing a series. Each week he talked about the 10 commandments. Okay, each week was a different commandment. And this time he said, now we're on honor your father and mother and all will go well with you. He says it doesn't have a stipulation in there that says, but only if they were a good parent. I was like, oh crap, I'm in trouble. He says, listen, this is basics. This is like Bible 101, right? These are basics. If you want all to go well with you, you need to honor your father and your mother, whether you like it or not, whether they were good or not. I was like, oh man. Okay. So I went home and I wrote a 10-page letter to my father. He was living in a different country at the time. I wrote a 10-page letter to him. He was turning 60 soon. And I wrote him this letter and I made the list of everything I was holding against him. And I said, but I forgive you. And I also told him that I had eloped because I didn't want him to walk me down the aisle because I didn't think he deserved it. So I ran off and got married and went off on my own. And I asked him to forgive me for doing that because I did it to punish him. And I said, I'm sorry, please forgive me, okay? So a month later, he writes back. He says he cried when he read the letter. And of course, he didn't remember most of, they never do. Do they ever remember? No, they don't remember what they, no. He didn't remember. He said, but, he says, I'm sorry. Thank you for forgiving me. I forgive you too. He says, and by the way, I just want you to know that his car had broken down and he got picked up by missionaries and they took him off to go live with him with the missionaries. And he completely changed his whole life around. They were all calling him a preacher at that point. He's like, my life is right with God. He says, and he ended the letter with, he says, I just want you to know that someday when you fulfill your calling in life and you are speaking in front of people, you have my permission to talk about our story. A month later, my father dropped dead of a heart attack. So if I had not listened to that day to write that letter to my father, I never would have had that closure, okay? And the other really important part of this was I was praying for something in my life. I was praying for 20 years. And as soon as I forgave my father, bam, it was answered. So I learned a spiritual lesson here. If you're praying for something, if you are holding unforgiveness, God, it's a law. He cannot answer you until you let go and you forgive. Okay? I told this story one time to a young woman that was married. She was trying for years to get pregnant. Her background was she grew up in a cult and they had molested her when she was a little girl. Her own father had molested her, okay? And when she heard me tell her this story, she says, I need to forgive my father. And she forgave him, and a week later she was pregnant. Okay? So I want you guys all to understand that, okay, that forgiveness is very important, all right? So here are the things that unforgiveness can cause. It causes physical problems in your body if you hold on to unforgiveness, okay? It causes stress, it causes heart disease, high blood pressure, it lowers your immune response, you're gonna get sicker faster, creates anxiety and depression and other health issues, okay? So what I want you to do now with your paper, okay, turn the page, and I want you to write down the names of people that you need to forgive. This might take a while. Because what it does is it brings this, see how the chains are broken? It's gonna free you up. It's gonna free you from anxiety and depression and health issues and all these things. Now here's what I want you to think about. Do you need to forgive your mother or your father? My mother called my son retarded because she's from that generation, okay? Do you need to forgive your autistic child for acting the way they do? Do you need to forgive them for being autistic? Do you need to forgive autism? Right? I want you to just be real with how your mind, your thought process, okay? Do you need to forgive the doctors? Do you need to forgive the teachers? Do you need to forgive your school system? Right? What else who really makes you angry? Right? Do you need to forgive your spouse? Your baby daddy? Okay?
Your jackass.
Your jackass. Yes. Okay? Who do you need to forgive? Just write their names down, okay? Because this is going to set you free. This is going to bring you freedom, okay? Are you done? No? Okay. We're still going. We can go down the whole list. Okay, now I want you to rip that page out. Rip it out of your notebook. So what I want you to do, now I want you to look at it, and I want you to, you can say it in your head, you can say it out loud, whatever you want to do. I want you to say, I forgive you, to each one of those people. I forgive you, Dad. I forgive you, Mom. I forgive you, Dr. So-and-so, that screwed up the diagnosis of whatever. I forgive you, school system, blah, 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 that screwed up my kid's IEP, whatever. Whatever it is, I want you to look at them and say, I forgive you.
No, what if you're not feeling it?
It doesn't matter how you feel.
Okay.
That's a big thing, okay? I don't care how you feel. It's not about that. By speaking it, that's going to help you bring it about, okay? The feeling comes later. This is about that picture right there. This is about breaking the connection to that person and setting you free. Like I said, it doesn't matter if what they did was right or wrong. It doesn't matter. This is about setting you free, okay? By forgiving, okay? Now, I want you to take that list and I want you to either crumple it up or rip it out and put it in that blue bucket. And you're gonna walk away from it now. And you're gonna stop holding whatever it is against that person. Yeah. Some of you might have to go home and write a 10-page letter to somebody, I don't know, but for now,
That's not happening. That's
put it in the bucket and set it free, let it go.
still writing. She got a long list. I'm being very specific.
Okay, moving on. The other F word is faith. Faith is really important. I could not have gone through anything that I got through without faith. Okay? And the fourth is another F word, which is, just real quickly, that's a poem where this girl was deathly ill, and the priest came in to see her before she passed, and she says, she says, I want to be buried with a fork. And he says, what are you talking about? She says, well, when I was growing up, and I meant to tell you all to save your fork, for the cake, okay? Because the cake always comes at the end, and you save your fork because the best is yet to come, okay? And so she says, I want to be buried with the fork because the best is yet to come, okay? Yeah. And this is, there's a man, his name was Bob Jones. He was a very well-known, minister, prophetic person. And in 1975, he died, and he went to heaven, and then he came back. And he told everybody his experience when he was in heaven. Everybody was waiting in line, and they had a question for everybody first. And he asked every single person. Now, mind you, he's a minister, he's in ministry, da da da. He didn't ask, did you do this, did you do that, did you do whatever? He said, did you learn to love? That's the most important thing, but did you learn to love? And that, to me, that is the number one thing that Robbie taught me, was unconditional love. And when we first were finding out he had autism, one of the therapists working with him, she told me, she says, you'll never hear him say he loves you, and he may never love you. He'll only see you as the hand that feeds him. It is, but the point is, though, I didn't base my love on him based on if he also loves me back, okay? And through everything that we went through, I made sure I always loved him just the way he was. And that's the theme of my books. All right? Every chapter ends with, I love you just the way you are. And that's the number one thing that he taught me. Even if he's pulling my hair, whatever's going on, I learned how to love him unconditionally. More than meatballs. So this, I made sure that there were meatballs on dinner tonight for a reason, okay? My husband's aunt passed away years ago, just weeks before her 100th birthday. And they asked me to sing at her funeral and to speak. And when I asked the nieces, the nephews, the grandkids, everybody, I asked them, tell me something about, Aunt Rosie, that I can write in this speech. Every single one of them said, she made good meatballs. And that's it. That's all they could say. Now, she did make amazing meatballs. She used to wait till the French bread or the Italian bread got a little stale, and she cut it up and made her own breadcrumbs, and they were kind of spongy and garlicky, and they were like nobody else's meatballs. And she never taught anybody else how to do it. So after she was gone, I've never had her meatball since, right? But it really, really ticked me off. I said, this woman lived 100 years on this planet, and the only thing you can say is she made good meatballs? You've got to be kidding. That was a life-changing moment for me. I said, I will be damned if that's the only thing that anybody says about me when I die. So that's what propels me forward. So it made me really think about the rest of my life and what happens with the rest of my life, okay? So the other F word is forward thinking, okay? The picture on the left is my vision board. I got into vision boards like 5 or 6 years ago. And if you'll notice on the top, sort of center left, I put myself with Hoda, okay? And said, I'm gonna be on the Today Show. And I was starting to write a book on how to choose paint colors and stuff. So I made myself with my Paint Diva book there at Barnes & Noble and everything. And I thought, I'm gonna be on that Today Show when I write my book, right? And then if you look down lower where it turns yellow, okay, I have myself, it says, sour lemons, when you make lemonade, right? And there's a picture a little bit more below it where I'm with Paula. Where's Paula? There she is, my love. Okay, so I went to a networking thing at Woodhouse Day Spa and Summit. They had just opened. They invited my women's networking group to come one night so we could all get a sample. That's the picture there on the yellowy picture with the three of us, okay? We were all wearing our white robes and we're sipping champagne, and they gave us a sample massage, a facial, a pedicure, and I looked at Paula and I knew she had twins with autism. I knew how stressed out she was, and I said, she needs this more than anybody. And I said, someday I'm going to do this on a bigger scale, and I'm going to do a day like that for autism moms. And there it is on my vision board. If you see down... That's the picture here, but here it is on my vision board with Paula. That's me with drinking my lemonade drink, and this is me speaking in front of round tables full of women. And here you are. And then, there I am on the Today Show. And that's me on the Today Show up there on the right with my book. I have much bigger dreams, so I'm not going to talk about that right now. Okay, so the next F word, the last F word is funnies, which is laughter, okay? And this verse says, a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. I really believe that's true. A cheerful heart is good medicine. And another way to say it is laughter is good medicine. Did we laugh this weekend? Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Okay, so if you are always being negative and depressed and speaking these negative words, and you are always in this fight or flight mode and constant anxiety, on the left is a list of what happens over time, okay? It raises your cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone, which we talked about, like the negativity and the negative thoughts and the negative words. It releases the stress hormone, which is cortisol. And too much cortisol over time causes the list on the left: anxiety, depression, digestive problems, heartache, muscle tension and pain, heart disease, heart attack, high blood pressure and stroke, sleep problems, weight gain, problems with memory and focus. How many experience any of that? Okay? And here is, then this is science, okay? This is science. You lower your levels with prayer or meditation, okay? Did we have a prayer room open? Yes. Exercise, well, I thought you'd get more involved in the self-defense this morning, but did we dance though last night? Yes. Okay. With sleep, now I know sometimes that's not going to happen to sleep, but that's why we do this in the hotel, so you can at least try to get one night of sleep. Okay? Healthy diet, that's why I brought the dietitian in. Okay? Music and laughter. Laughter is really a big one. Laughter really does help with lower your cortisol levels. That's why I bring in a comedian, and that's why we do games and we do all the stuff that we do, because I just want you guys to laugh. I want you to laugh and have a really good time. Okay? Everybody always tells me, oh, well, there's somebody else that does retreats. It's called the Mother's Rest. And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's a B&B, and it's quiet. And I'm like, that's not my jam. I want them to have a good time. I want you to dance and laugh and have a great time. Here's what laughter does, okay? The physical benefits are it boosts your immune system. It lowers your stress hormones. It decreases pain. It relaxes your muscles, and it helps prevent heart disease. The mental benefits are it adds happiness to your day, it eases anxiety, it relieves stress, it improves your mood, and it strengthens resilience. How are we doing on time? It's 8 o'clock? Okay. All right. Really quickly. So here's what I do. When I go to the gym, I only make it maybe twice a week, but I'll go on the treadmill and I go on TikTok, and everybody that I follow on TikTok are comedians, and it's the guy that does the voiceovers on the pets. Oh, yes. He's so funny. He's so funny. But I want to show you, if I can, really quickly. This one gets me every single time. If I need to laugh, I put these guys on. And they don't even speak English, they're German. But what they do is, they have a podcast where they sample beer, and they tell everybody, whatever. They tell them about the beer, like if they like it. But they're sampling a beer that's infused with helium. And they laugh so hard that I cannot, I literally laugh out loud. Okay, let me put these guys on. Hopefully, we're going to get the sound.
There you go. Sing einfach mal.
We gotta get that.
Jetzt geht's wieder. Ey, komm doch mal. Das ist scheißegal, wie das schmeckt. Also, okay. Nochmal. Es schmeckt ein bisschen salzig, ein bisschen nach Ragazzi, Kopf, trinken, so ein bisschen weg.
Let's watch more. Oh.
So I'll put you on the lemonade page. All right. Cool. If you're not on the lemonade page, everybody go on your phone right now. Go on Facebook.
You have to answer the question.
Yeah.
Okay, to get on the Lemonade Mom page, You have to answer the questions, okay? It's called Lemonade Moms on Facebook. You have to answer the questions. It's, have you been to, do you have a kid with autism, and have you ever been to a Lemonade event? That's it. So some of you guys have been inviting your friends. Your friends are not answering the questions. I can't let them in unless they answer the question, okay? All right, so we're gonna bring our other speaker on. Take a 2-minute break, stand up, and run to the bathroom if you have to, and come back, okay? Hurry up.